All right, it's time for math. This is Math 1. Mr. Trutna here, and we're going to be going over Worksheet 6.3, which is the 5-number summary. Okay, so start us off, little riddle. You know why you should always be careful when standing near trees? Well, you got to watch the video to find out the answer to that riddle right there. Okay, so in this problem, what we're doing is there's actually a lot of information that we're going to go over. So the first part is the 5-number summary. If you're not too sure what we mean by that, the 5-number summary is referring to finding the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum. Okay, notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is why we call these the 5-number summary. Okay, so remember that just the first quartile we refer to as Q1, the third quartile we refer to as Q3, and every once in a while people refer to the median as Q2. All right, so in order to find these, the first thing that we have to do is we have to order our numbers. We have to put our numbers in order from least to greatest, okay? So I have 60, 65, so I'm just going to put the numbers in order. Let's see, no other things in the 60s, and I'm going to move to the 70s, and you can see I have 3 75s, so even though it's the same number, we have to write it 3 times because they're all part of the data, okay? And then I'm going to move to the 80s, so I have an 85 and an 85 and an 85, so I have 3 85s. So even though they're the same number, I still have to write the number all 3 times. And then I'm going to move to the 90s, so I have a 95. And then I'm going to move to the hundreds, and I have 100 and 105. Okay, so I don't know what this data is about, but it very well could be, let's say that it is representing test scores. Okay, so my lowest test score was maybe a 60, and my highest test score was maybe 105%. So that could be that. All right, so I want to do the 5-number summary. So the minimum is going to be the smallest number after, or the least number after you put the numbers in order. So 60 is going to be my minimum. All right, the maximum is going to be your greatest number after you sort the numbers. So 105 is going to be my maximum. And this is kind of when we're doing the 5-number summary. This is the order that you want to find out these values here. Okay, and next I'm going to find my median. So my median is going to be my middle number, or I could have 2 numbers. Okay, so I'm going to start with the 2 outside numbers, and I'm just going to start moving in one at a time and see where it takes me as far as the middle number goes. So you can see right here, I end up with 1 number. So 85. That 85 right there is going to be my median. All right, now once again, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pieces of data. If you have an odd numbers of pieces of data, you will always end up with just 1 number as your median. Okay, if you end up with an even numbered pieces of data, which I'm sure we will later on, then you'll end up with 2 numbers in the as medians, and then we'll talk about what to do. Okay, now I'm going to find the first quartile, Q1. So the first quartile is, not counting the median, I'm going to take all my lower half of my numbers, which is 60 to 75, and I'm going to find the middle of that. So I'm just going to move in one at a time, and you can see I have that 75. So that 75 right there is my Q1, or my first quartile. And then to find my third quartile, or my Q3 value, I'm going to take my upper half of my numbers, so from the right of the median, and I'm going to find the middle of that. So you can see that that's 85. Okay, so there's my 5-number summary. I found my minimum, my first quartile, my median, my third quartile, and my maximum. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to answer the rest of the questions here. So here I want to find these values as well, just to get practice as we go. All right, so the IQR stands for the interquartile range, and the way that you find the IQR is you take your Q3 value, and from it you subtract your Q1 value. So my Q3 value is 95, my Q1 value is 75, 95 minus 75 is 20. So my IQR, my interquartile range, is going to be 20. To find my mean, what I do to find the mean is first of all, I take the sum of all of my data. So in other words, I add all my data up. All right, and after I add up all of my data, I'm still got to write here. It's going to take me a little bit of time to catch up with myself. So plus 95 plus 100 plus 105. Then I'm going to divide that sum by, in this case, 11. Why am I dividing by 11? Well, because there are 11 pieces of data in my list. Okay? So using my calculator here, I'm going to add up all these numbers. 60 plus 65 plus 75 plus 75 plus 75 plus 85 plus 85 plus 85 plus 95 plus 100 plus 105, and I'm going to divide all of that by 11, and my mean is 77.36. All right, I'm just going to round that to 77.4. So that's my, whoops, that's my mean, sorry. Okay, so that's not my median. My median we already found. We found my median to be 85. Okay, my mode is going to be the number that occurs the most. In other words, is there a clear-cut winner? So you can see I have 375s, I have 385s, so that means my mode is going to be 75 and 85. Okay, why are they both of those? Well, because they both showed up 3 times. They both showed up the most. Okay, my range is going to be, to find my range, what you do is you take your maximum value and then you subtract from it your minimum value. All right, so my maximum value is 105, my minimum value is 60, so my range is going to be 105 minus 60, which is going to be 45. Okay, so these would be all of my solutions here to these values. And then the last part is asking, is there an outlier? So an outlier is any number that clearly is not out of place. And I would say that probably here there's none. There are no outliers. There's really no number that looks way out of place. Okay? All right, moving on to the back side, number 2. So once again, I need to do the 5-number summary first. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to sort these numbers from lowest value to highest value. I need to do this in order to figure out my 5-number summary. Okay, then I got 21 and I got 53. Okay, all right, so now I'm going to find my 5-number summary. So my 5-number summary is going to be my minimum. So my minimum is going to be my least value. So that's going to be 5. I'm going to find my maximum. My maximum is going to be 53. Okay, that's my largest number. And then I'm going to find my median. Okay, so I'm going to start here, and notice I have 6 pieces of data. So that's an even numbered pieces of data. So when I find my median, I'm going to end up with 2 numbers in the middle. Okay, so you can see that my median here is 11 and 19. Okay, so that's going to be my median. Now, that's not my median. What I do is, if I end up with 2 numbers in my median, what I have to do is I have to find the average. So I have to add both of them up, and I have to divide by 2. That's going to be my median. Okay, so when I do that, I get 30 divided by 2, so that's 15. So my median in this case is going to be 15. Okay, now this next part is going to be a little bit tricky, because now I'm going to find my Q1. All right, well, my Q1 is the middle of my lower half of my numbers. I only have 2 numbers in my lower half right here, 5 and 7. All right, so I need to find the middle of those 2 numbers. All right, so my Q1 is going to be the middle between 5 and 7. Well, how do we find the middle of that? Well, we take the 2 values and we add them up and we divide by 2. That's going to be equal to 6. So my Q1 value is going to be 6. When I move to my Q3 value, I have to look at it the same way. There's no middle between 21 and 53. So what I have to do to find my Q3 is I need to take these 2 numbers here and I need to find out what's the average of them. So I add them up and I divide by 2. 21 plus 53 is 74. 74 divided by 2 is 37. So my minimum is 5, Q1 is 6, my median is 15, my Q3, my third quartile, is 37, and my maximum is going to be 53. Okay? Alright, so now I'm going to find my IQR, my interquartile range. Once again, that's your Q3 value minus your Q1 value. My Q3 value is 37 minus my Q1 value, which is 6. So my IQR is 31. Okay, to find the mean, I'm going to take the sum of my data. So I'm going to go 5 plus 7 plus 11 plus 19 plus 21 plus 53. I'm going to add all those up, and then I'm going to divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm taking the mean is going to be the average of all of my data. Okay, so adding all those numbers up right there, I have 5 plus 7 plus 11 plus 19 plus 21 plus 53. That's 116. I divide 116 by 6, and I get 19.3, and the 3 just repeats. So my average or my mean is going to be 19.3. Okay, my median is going to be the number in the middle. We already found that. That's 15. Okay, the mode is going to be the clear-cut winner, the clear number that shows up the most. Well, you can see no number shows up the most. There's a tie, so that means that there's no mode. If every number shows up the same number of times and there's no clear-cut winner as to which number shows up the most, we have to say there's no mode. To find the range, you take the maximum value and then you subtract from it the minimum value. So my maximum value is 53, my minimum value is 5. 53 minus 5 gives me a range of 48. So what that tells me is that from my smallest value to my largest value, there are 48 values that possibly could fall in between them. And then my outlier is going to be any number or numbers that are out of place. Okay? And I would say that 53 is definitely a clear outlier for this set of data in number 2. Okay, moving on to number 3. Here's my list of data right here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces of data. I'm going to sort them first to find my 5-number summary. So starting in the 40s, my lowest number is 49. Then I have a bunch of numbers in the 50s, so I have a 50. No 51, nope, there is a 51, so I have a 51. And then I have 1, 2 52s, I have 3 52s. So even though they repeat themselves, I have to write all of them. Even though they're the same number, they're still all pieces of the data. And then I have a 53, a 55, and finally a 67. Okay, so this would be sorting my numbers from least to greatest. This is what I do. I always have to sort my numbers first in order to find my 5-number summary, okay, which is my minimum, which is going to be 49, my maximum, which is going to be 67. The next thing I'm going to find is my median. So my median here, I'm going to start with the 2 numbers. Now I have an odd number of data, so I'm going to end up with 1 median. So just moving in one at a time. To find it, you can see that this 52 right here turns out to be my median. Okay, so that means I do have my answer down here. Whoops, my lights just went off in my classroom. There we go. So my median is 52. All right, I'm going to keep talking. The next thing I'm going to find is my first quartile and my third quartile. In other words, I'm going to find Q1. So Q1 is I take my lower half of my data, which is 49, 50, and 52, and I'm going to find the middle of that. So I don't count the median as part of the lower half. So you can see I end up with 2 numbers here as my Q1 value. Okay, so if I end up with 2 numbers, I have to add them up, 50 plus 51, and then I have to divide by 2. so that would be 50.5. That's my Q1. All right? To find my third quartile, or my Q3, I start at the upper half numbers, which starts at 52 and ends at 67, and I find the middle. You can see I end up with two numbers in the middle here of my upper half of numbers. So that means I have to find the average of these for my Q3. So 53 plus 55, I add them up and I divide by 2. That is equal to 54. So 54 is going to be my third quartile, or my Q3 value. Okay? All right. So now I'm going to use this data here to find my next pieces of information. Okay? So the first thing is my IQR, inner quartile range. The way we find that is we take our third quartile, from it we subtract our first quartile. So Q3 is 54. Subtract from it Q1, which is 50.5. So that's 3.5. So my inner quartile range, so that means there's only 3.5 pieces of, or spaces of data between my first and third quartile. Okay, to find the mean, I'm going to take the sum of all of my data. So I'm going to go 49 plus 50 plus 51 plus all the 52s. And if I want to be smart, I'm just going to go 52 times 3 plus 53 plus 55 plus 67. And I'm going to divide all of that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because there's 9 pieces of data there in order to find my mean. Another word for mean is average. So I'm finding the average of all my data. So 49 plus 50 plus 51 plus 52 plus 52 plus 52 3 times. Okay, plus 53 plus 55 plus 67 totals up to 481. I divide that by 9 and I get 53.4, and the 4 repeats. So my average, or my mean, of my data is 53.4. Okay, my mode is going to be the clear-cut winner as to which number is most popular, and you can see that's 52. So 52 shows up the most. All right, to find my range, I'm going to take my maximum value, and from it I'm going to subtract my minimum value. So my maximum value is 67. From it I'm going to subtract 49, which is my minimum value. So my range is 18. Once again, that number tells me that there are 18 spots or intervals between my minimum and my maximum value. And then my outlier is there any number that looks out of place? And I would say, in this case, 67 would appear to be an outlier. Everything else is pretty darn close to each other except for that 67. Okay, so there we go. So you know why you should always be careful when standing near trees. They are a bit shady. All right, hit the like button. There we go. Have a good day in Mathland.